here we're finishing up looking at the equations of circles. This is the 10.8 part of today's lesson. 10.8, we're looking at equations of circles. And the equation of a circle in standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And there should be some familiarity with this equation, and because it's actually very, very similar to two other equations we've used all year. One of them is the distance formula, and the other is the Pythagorean theorem. We have something squared plus something squared equals something else squared, right? That's the Pythagorean theorem, right? It's just that there's more stuff going on here. Or the distance formula, which is distance equals, right? The distance equals the square root of, well, of the sum of two squares. Well, if we took the square root of both sides, we'd have r equals the square root of the sum of two squares, right? So this is the same formula, just written a little bit differently to get us what we want. Now, why is that the case? Well, our definition of a circle is it's the set of points equidistant from the center, right? And that distance is r, right? That equidistance is r. And so that's all that this is setting up, is a distance formula of all of the points that are the same distance from r, right? So our equation, x minus h plus y minus k, those are both squared, equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. So if I gave you an equation of a circle, for instance, x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 16, you should be able to pull off where the center is and what the radius is. So what is the center? Well, the center is hk. So we have x minus h, x minus 3. So the center is at 3, right? Not negative 3, it is positive 3 because h is positive. X minus a positive h at x minus a positive 3, comma, y. Well, we have plus 2 here, but we want a y minus k. So that means that the k value here must be negative in order to make it y plus 2. Right, so our center is at 3, negative 2. And the radius is the square root of this r squared, right? And so we get 4. What if we had something like x squared plus y minus 3 squared equal to, let's make this one interesting, 5, right? So what is the x value at the center? Well, this is x minus 0, right? So the x value at the center is 0. The y value at the center is 3. And the radius, this is extremely important. Can almost guarantee a question like this will show up on a quiz and test. The radius is not 5, right? R squared is 5. The radius is also not 2.5, right? This number is the radius squared, so it is r squared equals 5. To find r, we take the square root of both sides. So the radius is the square root of 5. If we were on a homework or a quiz, most likely I'll ask you to find it to the nearest tenth or hundredth. So something like 2.2 or 2.24 may be the answers I look for there. Right? I can also ask you to write equations of lines, equations of circles. So if I told you the center is at the origin, right? Where is the origin? The origin is 0, 0, right? But I'll use the word origin sometimes, or I can use the point 0, 0. I probably won't give you both. And kind of looks like a creepy guy looking at us. We just need the mouth. And what if I told you that the radius is 6, right? Well, we fill this in. So we have x minus h, which is 0 squared, plus y minus k, which is also 0 squared, equals 6 squared, right? The radius squared. It's just filling it into this equation. X minus 0 is just x. We have x squared plus y squared equals 36. So a circle at the origin will always just look like x squared plus y squared, and then the radius squared. Center at from 0.71, and we had a diameter of 24. This is one of the only ways that I'll throw in a trick on these kind of problems, but I'm telling you that it'll happen, is that I will change what I'm telling you here because I want you to be able to use it, right? If the diameter is 24, then the radius must be 12, right? And just note the radius squared is not 24, right? 2 times the radius is the diameter, but that's not going to be the same number as this here, unless it's, what, 2 and 4. All right, so we have x minus 7, because that's the x value we're given at the center, plus y minus 1, that's the y value at the center, equals 12 squared, which is 144. Right, and the last one we're going to look at, though I don't think I'm going to give you any problems like this or homework and stuff like this. I think you should see it. So if we had a center at -4, -1, and it passes through -2, 3. So in other words, we want our center at -4, -1. So if I asked you a question like this, minimally you should be able to set that up, right? So minimally you should be able to tell me that x plus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared is something, right? Well, what's the radius? Well, if the circle is passing through this point, we can find this 2 different ways. So one would be to say that this equals the radius squared, and then plug in this point to our equation and solve, which is technically the same as what I would usually do. Usually I just use the distance formula between these 2 points, and that is our radius. However, it is kind of interesting to look at it using it this way. It turns into the distance formula that we would use anyway, right? So let's call it r squared, right? And then we're going to plug in this point for x and y. So we have -2 plus 4 squared plus 3 plus 1 squared equals r squared. We take the square root of both sides. All of a sudden we have r equals this, and this looks a lot like the distance formula, right? -2 plus 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. The square root of 4 plus 3 plus 1 is 4 squared is 16. equals r. So r is the square root of 20. So really what we care about is r squared, and r squared is 20, right? So our equation here is x plus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 20. Homework will be posted on Canvas.